Welcome to the Government News Brief for Friday, May 19, 2017. In the news this evening, efforts are being intensified to assist flood-affected residents of Region 8. Regional fisheries activities discussed at 11th Annual Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism and the Guyana Association of Municipalities Inaugural Municipal Conference 2017 opens. These and other stories when the news returns. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Here are the details. The Civil Defense Commission, CDC, and the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs are intensifying efforts to assist the flood-affected communities in Region 8. Details in this report. Retired Colonel and Director General for CDC, Chabilal Ramsroop, explains that an oversight assessment of the affected communities, Kaibarupai, Waipa, Sandhill, and Chinapal was conducted yesterday. It was discovered that the situation is severe to the extent that it is impossible to travel on the land. He says alternative measures are being put in place to provide immediate relief to the affected communities.
The plan that we have is establish a forward operation base at Orinduik. We'll use Orinduik airstrip to fly in the supplies for the three areas: Kaibarupai, Waipa, and Sandhills. We'll have two flights tomorrow from Kaichor or Orinduik airstrip. We're moving the supplies by boat, which is going to be organized by the regional chairman, to the three locations.
Colonel Ramsroop says CDC is aiming to have 2 boatloads of supplies into the region by tomorrow. More supplies will be sent continuously until all those affected have been supplied with a 7 days ration. Chinapal residents are receiving supplies today.
Today, one aircraft is departing Madhya for Chinapal. We're taking some immediate supplies. Tomorrow we have organized 2 flights into Chinapal, and on those 2 flights we'll also send in some other supplies. But on that flight will be the minister and somebody else.
The retired colonel points out that there will be immediate need for food, water and sanitation supplies, medical resources and bedding and clothing in the impacted communities.
Apart from rations, we are also sending in some tents for those homes that were washed away. We are sending in blankets. We are sending in sleeping bags. We are sending in water purification tablets. Because at this point in time, it's very difficult to fly in bottled water because of the weight. So we're sending purification tablets so the residents can use those. We are also sending in some 2.5 gallon plastic jerry cans. So when they put the drug into the water, they can keep it.
Doctors will also be traveling into the area to treat the affected residents. Agriculture and Fisheries ministers from CARICOM member states meet to discuss the regional fisheries activities. Delicia Haynes has the details.
The Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, CRFM, is hosting its 11th Annual Ministerial Council meeting in Guyana. Fisheries ministers and regional representatives are reviewing ongoing programs and trends in the fisheries and aquaculture sector. Minister of Agriculture Noel Holder, who is the newly elected chairman of the council, says that there are measures in place to ensure fish sustainability in the region. He adds that there will be specific emphasis on aquaculture.
As we seek to further develop our marine fisheries resources, we must recognize the need to increase investment in aquaculture. Therefore, support to the sustainable development of aquaculture, including identifying and providing further appropriate training activities in aquaculture for both private and public sector personnel, must be forthcoming.
The Ministerial Council will receive and consider the report and recommendations of the 15th meeting of the Caribbean Fisheries Forum. The CRFM's technical advisory body was held in Jamaica in March 2017 in preparation for this council's meeting. Outgoing Chairman, Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries in Jamaica was represented by Derwin Spence.
Jamaica is not different from other CRFM member states. with respect to the importance of our fisheries sector and its contribution to food and nutrition security of our peoples, and indeed to the sustainable livelihood of some of the most vulnerable in our societies, all our societies. In our efforts to achieve sustainable management and development of our capture and culture fisheries, we have established this noble mechanism, the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism.
The Executive Director of the CRFM, Milton Horton, notes that progress has been made in developing the CRFM.
Since the establishment of the CRFM, it is clear that based on available evidence, we have made significant strides and progress in several areas. However, we still have a lot of work to do. And indeed, if we're going to adequately protect and secure the livelihood of our coastal communities and our food security, and to transition to fisheries that are more sustainable, profitable, and generate more wealth.
The fisheries sector in CARICOM contributes approximately US $420 million to the domestic product and employs 341,000 people either directly or indirectly. The Council aims to improve the trade and economic performance of the sector while addressing climate change and associated threats. For the Government News Brief, Delicia Haynes.
The Guyana Association of Municipalities GAM Inaugural Municipal Conference 2017 opened this morning at the Marriott Hotel. Delon Sanko reports.
The event was dubbed an historic one by the Minister of Communities, Ronald Bulkan. The minister underscored the role that GAM must play in rebuilding the local government system. The conference formed part of the reactivation of GAM.
GAM has a critical role to play for the emergence of developmental local governments by assisting in building the capacity of their members to adopt good local government practices and to promote effective local development.
Absent from the conference were mayors, deputies, and councillors of the opposition-controlled municipalities. Minister Bulkan observed that this was not the choosing of the councillors.
Their absence, sadly, is, as I have alluded, an enforced one, an imposition that is the product of, and forgive me, warped thinking, one that reflects and represents the antithesis of local democracy and local empowerment. They are not being asked to serve and represent the interests of their residents, but rather masters located elsewhere, selfish individuals engaged in an imaginary struggle.
Meanwhile, the representatives of municipalities who traveled across rivers, hills, political party lines, and differences to be present at the conference were applauded by the interim chairman of GAM and mayor of Linden, Carwin Olin.
I must say congratulations to my comrades and all municipalities for this great effort in the realm of local governance. Fellow mayors, your commitment to working towards a more meaningful and collaborative relationship between our municipalities is commendable and noteworthy.
Over the next 2 days of the municipal conference, there will be the resuscitation of GAM, including the elections of office bearers and the rolling out of GAM's draft action plan, along with other discourse and deliberation on the way forward for the municipalities. Pivotal to the agenda, there will also be the advancement of municipalities towards capital towns and the incorporating of a green economy. There will be 2 days of exhibition showcasing the uniqueness and the best of the 9 municipalities. The conference is being held under the theme, Positioning Municipalities as a Critical Partner in National Development. Delon Sanko for the Government News Brief.
Residents of Matthews Ridge are set to benefit from a $5.5 million water supply improvement program. Neola Damon reports.
Guyana Water Incorporated, GWI, has signed an agreement with the Matthews Ridge Neighborhood Democratic Council, NDC, to undertake $5.5 million upgrade to the community water supply system. The works includes the rehabilitation of the water sources and the rehabilitation of the transmission and distribution lines. GWY Managing Director Dr. Richard Van West Charles says that his agency urgency in the Interland region is driven by the opportunity for incidents of waterborne diseases and the risk of contamination of the water supply.
We are going to ensure that the 3 springs are rehabilitated. But more so, our Dr. Ramatar is here, and we have begun to discuss between now and when this project is finished, your water will be treated so that you have a good quality water. Your water will be monitored, because we are going to talk with the Ministry of Health so that we will place a kit at the hospital where the water quality for microbes will be monitored on a regular basis, on a weekly basis.
Dr. Van West Charles explains that his agency is also working with authorities to address the issues of leaks in communities. He says that the residents should see a significant improvement by the end of August.
We also want to ensure that we deal with the leaks on a timely basis. Hence, we are going to work with the NDC, and we are going to share costs to the staff, who are going to be looking. Mr. Watson, I think it is one person.
Yes, Mr. Watson.
I think there's someone else who will look at the leaks. And once we correct this by the end of August, you will see a significant improvement in the service so that you can have supply both in the mornings and the evenings.
It was also highlighted that the NDC and the Regional Democratic Council, RDC, should help with identifying communities that do not have access to water. Regional Chairman RC Brethel Ashley says since his discussion with the GWY Managing Director about the region's water woes, the GWY team is working assiduously to improve potable water supplies.
The Regional Democratic Council, under my stewardship, is only concerned with one thing, and that is bettering the quality of life for all people living in Region 1. What I'm concerned with is making communities better, helping them to develop from strength to strength. And I'm glad that the Guyana Water Incorporated would have fully come on board.
The funds for the agreement signed for the water intervention in Matthews Ridge would be provided to the NDC, which would then engage residents to provide the works. Neola Damon for Government News Brief.
Government will have to take several factors into consideration before it makes any decision on the way forward towards setting up an oil refinery. Tiffany Rodius has the details.
Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman says the green economy and what will be done with the natural gas are some factors being considered before any decision on setting up an oil refinery is made.
We may look at a 15,000 barrel per day factor, but that is going to change if we put the gas into generation to replace the heavy fuels that GPL uses, or if we put it into industry only. We are going to see a change in those numbers.
However, the minister says the government will not oppose any private investor who wants to set up a refinery to supply the country's energy needs, which is around 15,000 barrels of fuel per day.
We have no difficulty with any private investor or private interest wishing to get into the business of refining. What we have to ask ourselves is whether the crude will come from the Liza development or whether, and if it does, will it be expected to come at a subsidized cost?
The government will also have to consider other externalities to ensure that both the private sector and the public at large benefit from any investment in a refinery, the minister adds. Oil expert Pedro Haas points out that the private sector can undertake the investment of setting up a refinery, but cautions that if it has to be subsidized, it could be problematic.
The key issue is then to ensure that the oil price at which the commodity is transferred to the private sector investment is made at international opportunity value.
On Wednesday, AS revealed the establishing of an oil refinery in Guyana could cost the government as much as $5 billion. Such a refinery would be a massive and risky investment, Haas notes. For the Government News Brief, Tiffany Rogers.
have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. GINA has an active Facebook page, and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Do join us again on Monday for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renetta LaFleur. Have a great week.